Welcome to Zero to Start, a podcast about XR development that brings you inspiring conversations with creators, developers, and industry leaders. I'm your host, Siciliana Trevino. On today's episode, we're stepping into the future of footwear with Ian Harrison, creative disruptor, innovation catalyst, XR futurist, and the founder of SneakAR. SneakAR transforms your sneakers into a dynamic digital canvas with their revolutionary AR experience, turning your shoes into an interactive masterpiece with just a tap. Ian shares how SneakAR is disrupting traditional brand engagement by building unforgettable door-knock moments. Ian unlocks the power of Web3, XR, and emerging tech to create lasting moments that matter. His unique path has taken him from music to manufacturing to the blockchain, where his Culture Coin Web3 solution was nominated for an Auggie. Check out the XR kicks at sneakar.io. The link will be in the show notes with other goodies from today's show. And a quick heads up, there's a minor shift in the audio about 5 minutes in, but this conversation was just too good not to share. So let's get started. Ian, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Siciliana, thank you for having me on the podcast today. Let's effing go.
I was so excited. Okay, so we connected because I was posting about the shoes of the various tech conferences and how excited I was about the shoes of AWE, talking about the experience of the way people walk and step into the future and are building the future. Tell me all about SneakAR.
Would love to. So, we are at the very base of it, an augmented reality experience platform at the threshold of brands and custom footwear. And so we land brands anywhere of the world. Their conversion may be their intentional buyer, their brand loyalist, their super fan, using our what we call the walking billboard effect. And that's sort of our UPO or unique product offering. But what that is literally what a business card used to do, or a television ad or a QR code even maybe 10 years ago. And it allows you to sort of land a branded moment in the form, in this case, of footwear, and like bringing a brand kit. So colorways, artifacts, logos, things that make the people say, aha, I know that brand, right? You put that into footwear and then you disseminate that out into the world wherever your brand needs to be. And that's sort of what we deliver. And then beyond that, through our platform, we've built out a complete full stack. To your point, mentioning we've got both the app in the App Store and Play Store markets that create sort of paywalled branded experiences, but we also have a native WebGL Unity-based Sneak Arcade that allows for gaming right off of the phone, URL-based, no finger lift, easy peasy, and get into it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Tell me about some of the partnerships and activations that you've launched.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a year incepted into this thing. And so our first activation that we did, like our pop-up, we call it our pop-up custom kickoffs. And that's a, play on words, obviously on kicks. But we did a swap con in December. And that was sort of our first like introduce us to the world moment. And then from there we were invited out to NAM, which was in the Anaheim Convention Center back in January, where we partnered with one of our strategic partners, Kit Better. They're a Korean media company that it's really cool. So they take records, albums. I'm a musician as well. And so I have a record out on Kit, for example. But anyhow, so we engaged South by Southwest a couple years ago, stayed in contact, started working on what and how and when. So Kit allows you to bring a physical album and put it onto your phone using the microphone port on your phone. It's like a really cool patented proprietary thing. So the Kit Better experience is really unique because it's something you hold, and you would have exchanged like a mixtape or a CD back in the day, like, oh, let me get this one, you get that one. A one for one experience, right? That you viscerally get to enjoy, and then anybody else listening to the music with you, keeping people in touch better. That's what KIT stands for. So keep in touch better. So that's one of our, first kind of activation partners that we used my album as the baseline and create what's kind of called a living cover experience. And so that's where if you bring your phone over the album cover that I put out with them, the entire album comes to life, like the formation of the album cover itself. So the font and the letters and the caricatures create an augmented experience that happened right in kind of enclosed in the parameters of the records.
I was a performing artist that was working on putting out a Kit album, but it was novel to them even at the time because I've got a lot of work on performative use case on bringing assets into blockchain. For example, my last two records are all pretty much all individual tracks and then in record form through different art creation, all on chain. So for my Web3 heads out there, I was like, okay, how can I create a new way to connect with fans, create value structure to them that's unique and hasn't ever been explored before? And so through partnerships on Wax blockchain, I was able to put my action where my ideas were, made a scavenger hunt, gamification aspects out of it, like collect the digital, get the physical, collect the physicals, onboard into the digital. And so it really created a sort of ecosystem. And then you start combining spatial browsing, open world internet, whatever you want to call it, metaverses. That really sort of created the aha of like, all right, how do I bring what I've done for my branding to an incubation space? And so from there, I sort of realized this measure that I had made to prove out as a creator and as an artist was scalable and had been doing the last 2 decades in product management and engaging with fans, figuring out what works, what didn't, working with factories to create products. So from there, I created a creative as a service agency, which is Monster Vision itself. And so I bolt on to executive teams, C-suites, product, and business itself, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and help bring out whatever their creative vision is. So either I'll team up with their in-house or we'll build out scope and then I'll gun for hire and build out experiences, which led to the creation of SneakAR. And so that sort of model of innovate, incubate, and integrate, which are the standards that Monster Vision work for bringing brands onboarded into the platform. So that created the why and the where and how did SneakAR become. And so you were asking me about some of the activations we've done. So giving some background into how Kit came on board. It's important to know that for the last couple decades, I've been front manning different groups, funk groups, hip hop groups, touring with Vans Warped Tour, dive bars, everything in between, you name it. So it ties back into what does an experience look like when you activate with SneakAR? And I started this by prefacing that we're an experience platform because I think experience breaks down into so many things. So on one hand, we've created those living album covers I was talking about with Kit. But on another, working with the NIL space, which is a huge aspect for SneakAR.
The NIL space?
Yeah, a name, image, likeness. So when you bring an athlete in this case, but also celebrity, so musician, comedian, actor, you name it. But in this case, athletics. So when we're building out a super fan experience for an athlete, especially working with a lot of the Division Ones that we're doing, that is important to think about what they're trying to leave behind because for a lot of them, this may be the moment that they get. And this may be the closest thing to a door knock moment that they'll ever have. And so we're creating kind of the what. And so as an experience platform, when we're engaging activations, on one hand, we have something like tangible, and that brings that tangibility one step further. For an athlete, for a football player we're working with, for example, he wanted to put together his highlight reel of just his biggest moments, right? And so it pieces together in a way that we've used chroma key to drop out backgrounds. And so it brings out these tackles and these hits and these blocks in a way that makes the viewer, the user, the fan, the super fan, the family and friend, whoever, like that's experiencing this in that moment with them. And we really bring what's on the field to the off-field experience. We worked with several musicians to bring clips of their music videos or unreleased content out through the kind of unlock moment that happens from building out a superfan shoe with SneakAR. So those are some of the activations. And then what we launched at AWE, which was super cool, was our Sneak Arcade, using our walking billboard effect, right, where we were walking around with an AWE shoe that we were able to bring in the brand kit, bring in everything that the conference goer was seeing around them, from banners to billboards to logos, and then have that activate anywhere at the conference floor our Sneak Arcade using, again, our WebGL technology. So no app needed. We literally would have people come up to us, talk to us about the shoe, and then take them further on that journey. Journey telling is huge for us. So take them further on that journey by saying, oh, you're already here. You've got your phone out. You followed us on Insta. Great. You're checking out the site. Awesome. Why don't you click that Sneak Arcade AWE experience and then aim your phone at any AWE logo, any Augmented World Expo banner that was in the floor, and play a drone flying game or a Hot Wheels type car where you're driving around, or check out some of our static experiences, which are those clips that I was talking about, like excerpt from a music video that's upcoming or an animation, things that I would call maybe a static activation, but still bring out the XR aspect of extending a brand moment.
That's so cool. I love that you can just leverage all of that content and media so that it lives on, takes on a new life, and brings audiences along on that journey telling.
Thank you. Hammer nail moment you just hit. I think you just said it brings it to life, right? And so we are a living adventure moment for the brand because the platform is mutable and those experiences, to your point, can sort of change out. So the fact that the platform is pretty much instant activation, so within 48 to 72 hours, we get an initial activation up, and then once the brand's onboarded into the platform, it's a bit of an autonomous control outside of needing a project manager for any kind of scope change. But the whole idea is people first, right? And building for people market fit, which is really the new product market fit, in my opinion, anyways. Brands need to feel empowered as much as their end user or their algorithm or their conversion, right? And so the way we're doing that is saying, what do you want your fans to experience? Augment your expectations with us, right? And then the same question gets posed to the consumer of, what do your shoes do? I think a lot of these experiences end at the point of transaction, meaning your relationship really ends with these other footwear companies, fashion companies, you name it, at the point of you handing them cash, tender, and then handing you a receipt and you walk out the door. There's not much engagement beyond that. And so the idea of building a Web3 brand and building for the people is that we need to keep engagement anchors active and fluid. And so the way you do that is you onboard. And so we've created our culture coin system, which is what we were up for the Auggies for at the AW, which for the end brand user, so the B2B to B2C flow. So business to business, business to consumer. That's the sort of ecosystem we provide, right? That funnel of taking a brand and onboarding them in, and then ultimately creating the aha moments or woo for their end user. So that's the B2B to B2C. Instead of the transaction being terminal and singular, the idea is onboard into the squad, onboard into the crew, for example, and then from there, create all of those digital twin moments you're talking about. Create the meet and greets, create the exclusivity, one-of-one drops, behind the scenes, concert events, signings, you name it. And the reason that works, using token-backed assets in my experience in utility architecture for NFTs, et cetera, is that when you get your coin of authenticity, in our case, it's called the culture coin, and we've built a seamless way to onboard Web 2 into Web 3. So, from a high fashion standpoint, imagine Tiffany or Fetty bags or, I don't know, Balenciaga or something like that. These like exclusively rare brands to get it, and that it's rare to have it. The same methodology works that we've done for SneakAR, and I'll explain it. So when the consumer gets their thing, the email gets sent to them and it says, hey, congratulations, you've got your authentic pair of SneakAR. Siciliana, go and check out your token of authenticity. Well, why do you care? Well, 5 bullet points, like I just went into: exclusives, meet and greets, one-on-ones, product discounts, you name it. Any and all of these things that are enticing to a consumer. So the part that's easy, though, is you click a link, you sign in using Google, OAuth, an email password, anything you're familiar with. And at that moment, you're kind of onboarded into our culture crew using a hub that we've built with our partners at Uncut Network. So if anybody wants to check it out, they can go to Hello Uncut. But through this sort of onboarding process, the user then goes and clicks their culture coin image, like a very familiar thing to do, click something that you're told to grab. So in the email, it says, go to here, grab your culture coin, click on it, put this password in. But when you do, a Polygon wallet, which is a Web3 wallet, with zero to low gas fees for people that know what I'm talking about. But that don't, a wallet, a holding suspense thing gets made for you that holds your culture coin. So that's it. No finger lift. It's just there. You've clicked a picture. You own this cool digital poster. It's in your culture crew hub on Uncut collection.
But it's built on Polygon.
Absolutely. So that whenever that end consumer is ready to try a digital twin experience out in the metaverse, or they want to go to this meet and greet that they were told about in the email, they remember, oh yeah, I have this thing that does something. Again, back to what do your shoes do? Now you have this token that's performing, and it's in no way monetized. Think of it as governance. This governance token says I'm allowed to do what others are not because I have this thing. And so at that point, the user becomes Web3 because they've learned MetaMask, they've learned Trust Wallet, they've learned whatever wallet structure they want to move that Polygon token out to. They hit that hash transaction, they hit send, boom, it's off into the meta world, right? So they now have converted seamlessly at their own leisure from Web2 consumer into Web3 doer.
How are you analyzing the metrics? How do you keep track of the interactions from the users? And what are some of the main KPIs that brands are looking for?
Great questions. So it's kind of twofold. I think in the Web 2 world, we're tracking data in the same way that you track data analytics like emails, time logged, abandon rate, things of that nature, impressions, all of that stuff that's like, okay, how many emails do we capture through the Culture Crew sign up? How many engagements are we getting likes on the blog posts? But then I think the Web3 trackability is the products and projects that we bring into Web3. Let's use like the Omniverse City, our partnership with them. They're a metaverse that is, technically Web2, or I'd say 2.5 because you still sign in with Google or what have you. Mm-hmm. But there are so many aspects to like digital twin experiences, token gating to get into certain districts or domains, etc. That would be an example of where we would track metrics on how many culture coins are getting signed in on. Like we would know because of what the culture coin allows to track for that brand, how many times it's being accessed from a wallet signing standpoint, how long until that session is getting terminated, what is happening from that wallet signature, is there a conversion out to the brand, right? Is there an exit point? So I think when you start talking about measuring Web3 metrics versus traditional metrics, or spatial internet, whatever you want to call it, Web3, it's just a different sort of bag altogether.
It's just really exciting that you have this avenue to connect with your super fans.
Yes.
And what has been some of the surprising findings that you've seen since you've launched?
I would say having the moments that happened at our first SwapCon, having the people walk up for the first time and say, what's up with these shoes? These shoes are real cool. And that's always the moment, right? That's like, yeah, we have really cool shoes. The design aesthetics are spot on. If you are a streetwear sneakerhead, we're likely going to appeal to you, period. And so we capture that. But then when you explain to them, but wait, there's more, and it's that, but wait, there's more eye moment that like, then you show them and you're like, pull your phone out, hover over this logo. And for example, we created a legacy shoe as a partnership with our buddy Frank Nitti and his connection to the Dog Pound late legend Badass. And so we put together an experience, for example, that plays a clip of a revitalized song of, that Badass had put together. And then bringing that moment out for these guys are like, oh, we know that guy. Yeah. And then, all right, cool. We'll bring the phone up and then extend that moment even further. So like something like that. And on the flip side, talking to ex-professional athletes and talking about those door knock moments that never happened for them and their people, right? And like,
what's a door knock moment? Tell me more about the door knock moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So traditionally, a door knock moment would be like when Michael Jordan was approached by 3 different competing footwear companies, or Allen Iverson, or Shaq, or any sort of athletic moment where a Wheaties, right, knocking on these different Olympians' doors, where a moment happens where they get the phone call, they get the email, they literally used to get the door knock. And the brand salesperson, the ambassador at the time, would show up at their door and talk about, we want to bring you in, right? What we're able to do, though, is for those that weren't ever door knocked, because it happens to like the 1% to 3% of athletes that even make it pro to begin with, or now in collegiate Division I levels, thanks to NIL. So
right.
caveat, NIL space over the last 5 to 7 years has really opened up opportunities for these athletes that are working their butts off, grinding for these teams, grinding for their collegiate, entities on and off field to create something for themselves that may be their hottest moments ever. So, big ups to the ability for these athletes to create a brand for themselves. Anyhow, I digress. Back to it. The door knock moment is that incarnate. So talking to alums, these players that were amazing on and off the court, again, on and off the field, that were never approached by a Nike or a Wheaties or a Reebok or in anything. And now we're able to create these legacy moments for them to bring their loved ones, their family, their friends, their super fans, heck, even their ops, right? Like into this experience, because we can take the idea conceptually and build it out sole to eyelet, as we've done several times now. We've got a sports science shoe we're working on for a paddle line in the UK. We've built several sole to eyelet skateboard shoes for different skateboarders. And then we have just sort of our standard, think of shoes as a canvas. What do you want to design on it? Plethora of silhouettes that we can design on. So the range of these door knock moments is as expansive as the creative mind behind it. And sometimes that's us, and sometimes that's the creator or the athlete or the celebrity. And usually it's a hybrid of both. SneakAR is birthed from my work in blockchain, my take home of fifth place in a national sneakerhead competition several years back, which led to being onboarded into the Alive Shoes design team internationally, coupled with, again, my many years in performing, figuring out product, what works and what didn't exist in the market, and figuring out what problem to solve. So that ties into sort of what I was speaking about at AWE, and that brand copy is dead. Traditional ways to deliver brand deliverables needs to be put on its head, because nobody's consuming media the way that they used to. At best, you can get a commercial bit in on someone's social stream. But other than that, you need to drive something that compels. And so the way you do that is whether it's socialify, gamify, meaning there's some social incentive like learn to earn, engage to get a product, that kind of thing, or play to get things, play to get product discounts, play to get early releases, play to get exclusive access. So by creating a platform for brands to have all of that under sort of one roof and, give them a place to house this experience design they want to level out, that's the inception of SneakAR and like stay SneakAR, the idea of staying in these moments that matter. It comes from my desire to want to do something that hadn't ever been done, my understanding of deliverables and how to engage with fans, and then turning that kind of upside down, running it back through the creative as a service aspects that I run, and taking that messaging back to brands and saying, this is how you do it, right? And the big keyword there is do. It's no longer talk about, it's no longer post about, it's no longer ad about, it's get out there and do. And so creating geospatial moments, like using worldcasting, which we have, and being able to say, all right, go to this place at this time and do this thing. That's the next level breakthrough that brands need to be thinking about. And so when you're asking why or how SneakAR, branded custom footwear is just a super big rarity. It's really hard unless you have already built out these factory relationships and understand the logistics aspects of it to really do footwear. That's not a dig, it's just a statement. So I had a unique aspect of coming from that background already and saying, okay, I already have this one thing. Plus I've got my experience as a performer and, front ending it. Okay, cool. So I know what works for fan engagement. Lastly, I've got my tech focus, right? Like being a futurist and being a technologist, being involved in XR and AR and in Web3 and in a blockchain, trying to incorporate novel ways to make that appealing and not boring and not stressful. And look, brands have to build stress-free, zero friction for their end intentional user. And as much as a brand might think that they build for everyone, like they're doing that as a foot shoot moment instead of something that could be expansive, by focusing on who their end algorithm is and building specifically for them. That algorithm can grow as your brand does, but I think you need to be hyper-focused on understanding your target market. And SneakAR allows a brand to do that. So we really need to drive home the fact that while we have a consumer line and we have our SneakAR standards and we have really cool, hip shoes, the sole purpose is to bring brands into custom footwear and deliver extended experiences in a way that's never been done. What I mean by that is disrupt. At the end of the day, disruption wins, and I talk about that a lot. You got to disrupt tactfully, and you got to disrupt in a way that doesn't cause harm. It's not malicious disruption. Those are two different distinctions. I digress.
No, I think that's wait. I think that's important. Disruption is a word that's used a lot, and everyone relies on it. But making that distinction of what's harmful and what's innovative is critical. It can be a fine line.
Absolutely, and I think for a brand that's looking to drive impact today and into the future, we can't rely on methodologies that used to work. I mean, you can look at the late titans of industry that have all fallen and see that the scrappy innovator startup crazy ones are, that are out there and just creating attractive UGC, or they're working with great creative teams to get content out there. I think being able to pivot and the power of the pivot into finding what works for your brand messaging is huge. So again, and you work with a cool designer to bring in a design to SneakAR, or you work with SneakAR internally to design this thing, right? Now you've got a wow factor, you've got a cool factor, you've got an educational factor, and you've got a true world use case, putting that new product out there in a way that wouldn't normally be seen. You convert in the moment. Imagine that you're wearing these shoes in a $10,000 a plate, high gala dinner, right? And there's nothing but CEOs of the auto industry in here. But you, this tire company, have put together a very nice looking piece of footwear using your new tech. And it's attractive and people are asking you about it. But further to that, instead of saying, oh, let's book something, let's set it up, come find me later, you're showing and proving, and then showing the new tech, using tech, mind-blowing moment, woo. You're wooing them with woo, really. And depending on what the audience is, again, at this gala event, you're likely trying to hit sophistication. What if you're sponsoring a little league baseball team or something like that, right? And so then that's the gamification aspect. You could create a really cool thing for the fans to do in the stands while the down moments are happening. And that's exactly what we do for several sports teams and leagues. So I think the what has to be considered always. Like if you're not constantly challenging your creative and asking, is this effective? Then it's a get right or get left scenario, and you'll likely get left.
You were nominated for an Auggie. What was the category?
We were nominated for 2. We made it to the finals for 1. So we were in for Best Consumer App for the SneakAR app, and then also for Best Implementation of Web3. And that's the one that we made it into the finalists for, and we lost to Auggie Labs. And we watched the robot homie carry his trophy down the escalators in some AJ1s, totally holding it up like, it just won the marathon. So we were happy to concede to something as novel and integrated as that. Yeah, so that's what we were up for the Auggie on in the finalist round, was for Best Integration of Web3, which is that culture coin system I was explaining.
When I was starting out as an early developer, I would get so frustrated and feel like everyone else can figure this out. So that would sort of give me a glimmer of hope that I could, if others could. I'm a perfectionist, and I'm a recovering perfectionist. And so technology is really good for helping me understand that done is better than perfect.
There you go. Yeah, I think as a musician, you have to come to terms with that too. So I think I'm bulletproof for 20 years in that mindset. So when I build into tech, that same acknowledgement of what you just said, I mean, that's a hammer nail moment. Put that on a t-shirt, right? Put that on a SneakAR. That it's better to complete something than to perfect it. And I think you can always build upon it and make something better. And that's what innovation is, right? At its core. But yeah, you got to do first. Lean in, show up, do work over and over and over again. Every iteration matters. And then always be making it better. It's sort of like an inside joke with my buddy Jake and I, my CTO. It's always be making it better.
So instead of always be closing from Glengarry Glen Ross.
It's exactly that. It is that.
Always be building.
At least always be building.
Yeah, and that's what I really like about SneakAR too, is that is your combination and your vision based on your years of experience in other disciplines. sometimes tech can be intimidating, but the people building just focus on their area of expertise or the things they're passionate about and bring that to the technology, and something unique comes from that only they can do.
Well, I think there's the hammer nail too. Sorry to say that again, but like these moments matter, right? Like whatever drives authenticity to you. We get such a limited time in our little skin suit speck of dust here. Like
Right.
we got to do something. So all we have is what we leave behind. I try to build with that perspective, but I think even the person living and experiencing it's like needs to be considerate of that. Like all we have is whatever people remember of us, like spoken of someone else's last breath. That's as long as we're remembered is until someone else's last breath speaks of us the last time.
That's pretty deep, dude. That level of like trying to understand your legacy and what you're building through the technology. I think that's why it's so critical to have a focus around your purpose, right? And being purpose driven.
100% that. Yeah, what's the why? If you try to build for everyone, you're building for nobody. And so as the consumer is faced with all these different GPT agents, and do I use Perplexity? Do I use GPT? Do I use DALL-E? Do I use Gemini? Do I use Grok? Do I use Oracle? My advice or my thought here is, not even advice, Siciliana, is that find the tool that you can build with the best for the thing that you're building. Meaning I use probably 6 to 7 different quote unquote AI products. And that's from research to art inspiration to actual prompt coding to like building things like building apps, all the way to using conversational AI to ideate and iterate. Like if I need to bounce ideas off of something, why not use a conversational brain that can help compute things at an exponential rate? So I think build the thing that you're trying to build with the best tools possible. Focus on what's effective, bite the elephant off in steps. I don't know how you want to look at it. It's like, yeah, don't get overwhelmed. Don't exhaust yourself in the purpose of creation.
Looking ahead, what are some of the things that you're excited about on your roadmap? What do you have coming up? And what's a dream client for you?
Oh, gosh. Man. Hitting it out the park, huh? All right. We're going to land this plane with a bang. Coming up for us, it's exciting, is we are up for another innovation award. We just got found out this week at TechX Now. It's coming up in Vegas at the Bellagio in middle to end of September. Coupled right with that is trying to get the ink dried on how it all looks, but we've got opportunities at both New York Fashion Week and Hawaii Fashion Week.
Excellent.
So Hawaii Fashion Week sounds great to just go out there, but yeah, trying to get all the logistics figured out. And then beyond that, we're taking some really exciting calls with some major key brands. I can't really talk about it yet, but and that means like in personal brands, so like celebrity type level, entertainment type level client signs. That's super exciting. And like if you're asking me who's an ideal brand, I would say bringing a large media platform into our experience platform and then delivering their media in a novel way that's never been done, but using like a top end design studio, experiential design studio to really flesh it out. So you have multi-state, multi-country, multi-spot activations. Maybe it's like a 5-city tour to roll out whatever this immersive experience is. And through SneakAR in our tech stack, we're driving the extension of those pop-ups with that street team model I was talking about, right? So you lace 10, 25, 10,000 people in an arena with these SneakARs that you've built for this brand. And then you have the activation and you center the activation around those moments. And then, maybe it's experiential gaming beyond that. So going back to that larger number I just mentioned, whether it's at a conference or a festival,
Coachella,
or like exactly, Coachella is a great example, or a stadium event, right, where you literally have a drone flying over this sea of people in your branded SneakARs that are all playing games off of it or doing augmented experiences, and you're capturing that aha. Think of the brand value and the resonance that you just captured by creating this, gamification SocialFi event. So back to the question, I think landing a AAA brand of any kind, but a media brand where we could really blow it out the water and like deliver some next level wow. Because we have the capability to scale it out like that, we're just ready to sign the right brand. That's the goal. That's the moonshots or nothing, baby. Let's augment some expectations together, y'all. Bold brands, get at us. And sneakerheads out there, what do your shoes do?
They make memories. They make the moments matter.
SneakARs do.
Thank you so much for taking the time to share the latest on what you're doing. I think it has so much, obviously, potential. It's great to see that you're getting all this recognition. More to come, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, Ceciliana. Thank you for sharing your space with me. Thanks for having me, and thank you to your listeners out there. I hope that, if nothing else, they take a little bit of excitement and enchantment into their own do and why. And I challenge them to go out there and leave something behind.
I hope this episode inspires you to step into the future with curiosity and discover how you can leverage your unique skills and talents to build XR moments that matter. And finally, done is better than perfect. Thanks for listening. Thanks to everyone who has subscribed and to all of our listeners around the world. You can support Zero to Start by subscribing to us on your favorite podcast platform. Give us a rating and share this episode with your community. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn, and we're now on YouTube. Until next time, happy installing.